Right, great. Let's get started. So this is a video. We've been doing monetary policy, and one of the things I held off with until now, because on the free response, you're going to have to not only explain monetary policy, but graph it. So the graph we use to show monetary policy is as follows. It's called the money market. There's two graphs to explain monetary policy. One is loanable funds, which I'll save for another video. But the primary one, especially for monetary policy, is the money market. So let me show you, and I'm attempting this in real time, how this works in terms of monetary policy. Okay, here we go. So this is what the graph would look like. And forgive my handwriting. I have terrible, terrible handwriting, especially on this little computer. But this is what the money market looks like. So we're going to go over, first of all, make sure I have pen on. All right. So this is what the money market graph looks like. You have an XY coordinate plane. Quantity of money. All right, so quantity of money on the x-axis. And on the y-axis, okay, remember, don't abbreviate. On the test, do not abbreviate. I know it's a pain. Your teacher might let you abbreviate. I don't in my classes because IR could be investment rate. It could be interest rate. It could be inflation rate. I don't know that you know what the axis is just by putting IR. So what I do is I always spell it out as a grader. Nominal. This one is nominal interest rate. And you put a percent there. All right, so now we have the y-axis, nominal interest rate, the x-axis, quantity of money. Now, the supply of money is, as we said in a prior video, completely inelastic. So it's an inelastic vertical curve that just goes down. And you can put either, I always put MS, but I've seen it before, S sub M. All right, so you could do either of those. Just like I say, pick one. They're both acceptable on the test. Now, I've also on the money demand curve, which I'm about to show you, I've seen it as a curve, all right, like that. And I've also seen it as a straight line, all right. All right, so a straight line, I think straight line is a little bit easier, especially if you're starting to learn something. Now, that's either money demand, I put MD, but I've also seen, and I'll put in parentheses, I've seen D sub M, demand for money. All right, so that's that. Now, what I always tell my kids, and I train my students to look for this, and hopefully they do it on this exam, is that's not enough. If I'm a grader and I'm looking for you guys to do this graph on the test, that's not enough. Anytime in all of macro you have an equilibrium point, you must connect that to the X and Y axis. The money demand curve already connects it. I'm sorry, the money supply curve already connects it. So down here, you also have to link that connection to the axis. So here, quantity of money, we're going to denote that with Q. You could put, some teachers put Q1, some teachers put, I usually use QE, all right? That means equilibrium quantity, and here it's R sub E. All right, so that's your equilibrium rate. Where the money supply and money demand come together, that's going to be your interest rate. Because remember, in society, interest rate is the cost of money. Money has a price, and that's interest rate. If you buy a car and you have to borrow the money, you pay interest rate. If you have a credit card and you borrow money from a credit card, you they charge you interest. If you buy a house and you have a mortgage, they charge you interest. So the cost of money is interest. So this is the money market right here. Vertical money supply, inverse relationship between money demand and nominal interest rate. Now, money demand has a formula which is very important on the test. So the formula for money demand is asset demand for money plus transactions demand for money. And you can put that down. D sub A equals asset demand for money, and D sub T is transactions demand for money. What are those? Okay, asset demand for money is, remember we went over this, money as a store of value. Transactions demand for money is money as a medium of exchange. Now, on the test, the asset demand as of now has not been super important. The transactions demand, I would star that on your notes because the transactions demand is super important when it comes to money demand. Anytime they shift money demand, anytime I've seen that on the test, it's because of this, and it's because this transactions demand varies directly with GDP. Which is to say, as GDP increases, and I'll put it down here, as GDP increases, money demand increases. Why does money demand increase? Because transactions demand for money increases. And that's part of transactions demand is part of the money demand formula. So therefore, money demand on aggregate will increase. Will you have to put that on the test? Yes, they have had that 1 year, and that was an explain point that kind of wrecked everyone. They said explain why, and it regards the crowding out effect. It regards actually fiscal policy, because if the government borrows more money because they're spending more money on fiscal policy, all right, what that will do is that will increase GDP, it'll increase aggregate demand. If GDP and aggregate demand increase, if GDP increases, transactions demand increases. Why? Because as the economy gets better and better and flowing more, people need more money in their pockets to spend. More people have jobs, more money is being spent, basically the opposite of what's happening today. So if transactions demand for money is increasing, then money demand is increasing, therefore interest rates will increase. And I'll show you what that will look like. All right, so this is if they show fiscal policy, if they show the crowding out effect on this money demand graph. And I'm going to abbreviate now. I'm going to break my own rule just for ease of use. So this is quantity of money. This is a money supply, money demand. Connect your equilibrium point, Q sub E, R sub E. And I feel dirty abbreviating here. I'm going to put nominal IR that way, and I'm going to put percent. Okay, so if they ever show the crowding out effect on this, what they will do is due to the change in GDP because fiscal policy, because the government spent their way out of a recession. If government spend increases, and I'll put a little tiny ASAD model because I'm tight. All right. If government spends more money, this happens. All right. Aggregate demand increases. If aggregate demand increases, GDP increases down here. If GDP increases, this is how they will show that. Boom. You have MD2. You have a hopefully straight dotted line, R2. You show the interest rate going up, and you could put Q2. So that's the crowding out effect on the money supply and money demand. Again, pay no attention to what a train wreck these graphs are. On your test, use a straight edge. You have time. Use your ID as a straight edge. Do something. Make your graphs neat. This is not the ideal situation to show these graphs, but I'm working with it. All right, so that's the crowding out effect. If the government spends more money, they tend to borrow more money. If they borrow more money, interest rates tend to go up. And this is showing that because GDP goes up. Now, that is not the primary use of this graph. The primary use of this graph is this. Look at that, it's getting better every time. Quantity of money, money supply, money demand. Again, always, guys, I tell my kids, practice like you play. Get into the good habit of, even your practice graphs should look as if they are on the test. Nominal interest rate, percent. Okay, the primary use of this graph, and I told you if they do the crowding out effect, they're going to do it here. They're trying to illustrate monetary policy, and monetary policy will be illustrated here. All right, and I'm going to even look at this. I'm going to change colors. If they're trying to show expansionary monetary policy, and think about you and your home life, if your parents wanted to help your economic situation, would you want them to give money to you or take money away from you? I'll wait. You can pause the video. The answer is obviously you want them to give you money. Same thing with the Fed, same thing with the economy. If the Fed is trying to juice the economy, if they're trying to help unemployment, if they're trying to help out of a recession, what they will do is this. And this is how they will show it. MS, I'll call it E for expansionary. They will increase the money supply. That in and of itself is not a panacea. That's not going to help the economy. What will help the economy is this. Interest rate going down. And always put Q2 and show your arrow. Arrow for curve, arrow for x-axis, arrow for y-axis. 3 arrows and 3 twos. Okay? Why is that so important? Well, and I'll put it over here. Expansionary, if the money supply increases, then interest rates will go down. If interest rates go down, C will spend more money. People will spend more money. I will spend more money. Businesses will spend more money. If C and I borrow more and spend more, why would C and I spend more? Well, think about it. If interest rates go down, you can buy that house now that you weren't approved for. You can buy that car now. Businesses can take out that loan. It's a lot easier to borrow money and to spend it. So if C and I increase, aggregate demand will increase. If aggregate demand increases, then there's a whole bunch of things happen. GDP increases, price level increases, and unemployment drops. Economy gets better, basically. All right. Last thing, if the Fed is worried about, let's say, inflation, what they're going to do is this. Let me quickly, I don't know how much time I have left, change colors. Quantity of money, money supply, money demand, connect your equilibrium, R sub E, Q sub E. So nominal interest rate, percent. If the Fed's worried about inflation, so the problem now is the economy is getting too good. And I'll explain the tools in a later video of how they do this. What the Fed will do, and I'll put it in red because they're trying to stop, it's like a stop sign, they're trying to stop the economy. If your parents if you had a spending problem and you were like building up credit card debt, what your parents would probably do is take away that credit card, take away money. Well, that's what the Fed's doing. If prices are going too high, they need to stop people from spending money. Take away money from the economy, money supply decreases. That in and of itself is not a cure-all. What it does is important. It raises interest rates, and always Q2. It raises interest rates. So down here on the side, I'll show you the explain point. If money supply decreases, interest rates will go up. That's the important part. If interest rates go up, people can borrow money less easy. It's called interest-sensitive expenditures. Remember that term, interest-sensitive expenditures, both C and I. Anything that you have to borrow money to buy goes down. Interest sensitive expenditures goes down. C&I go down, aggregate demand goes down. If aggregate demand goes down, a bunch of things. GDP goes down, price level goes down. Unemployment, unfortunately, goes up, but that's not the target. The target is this. I'm trying to fix prices. I'm trying to fix inflation. All right, so that's that. That's your money market tutoring session. There'll be more to come, but that's money market crash course. Know it really well for the test. Super important graph on the test.